Welcome to More Action, the podcast for entrepreneurs, business owners, and professionals. I'm your host, Sheley Brien, and together we have candid conversations with industry leaders to uncover valuable wisdom and lessons learned. My hope is you use these lessons to intentionally take more action in business and life. I hope you share and enjoy. All right, today's episode is something that I have definitely felt in the past, yet I haven't talked about in the show. And it was funny, I was looking and planning out here on the show, just different topics, different guests that I am working to bring on for each and every one of you. But this topic of imposter syndrome has never been talked about yet on the show. So I'm incredibly excited to kind of share some insights. I'm going to share some, research. I'm going to, go through actions that I have taken, that I have read about, that I have seen others do when it all comes to that feeling of imposter syndrome. And I got to tell you, this episode, I have to call it out where credit is due. This episode is stemming from something that I heard actually on the Modern Wisdom podcast. That's with Chris Williamson. I would say in the last 8 months, became aware of this podcast, and I've listened to a few episodes on there that I actually really enjoyed. And this one, the guest was actually Alex Hormozi. And if you know, here on the show, I really appreciate Alex's way, as well as Layla's way of communicating, and the way that it is so easy to understand. And so the topic came about imposter syndrome out on that podcast. And Alex had this great saying that just summed up essentially how I felt over the last year is just, he says, state the facts, tell the truth. And it's so simple, which is what I freaking love. Because when it gets hard, or when you try to dance around the bush, right? Dance around what it is, it becomes so ridiculous. And so something that Alex is very good at doing is just making it simple to understand. And so when it comes to imposter syndrome, I want to take you all through, some research that I have done on it. I will share personal experiences. And then at the end, of course, here on the More Action pod, I am going to leave you with actionable steps that you can take when you are feeling that imposter syndrome or that imposter phenomenon. And if you want, come on over to the show and watch on YouTube. Listen in wherever you are right now, but YouTube is a lot of fun. I'm having some good fun over here. Plus, I am sharing additional content other than just the podcast. So I invite you, come over, subscribe, comment, and let's have some fun over there too. Okay, so when it comes to imposter syndrome, studies have shown, and this study was actually from a paper in the Journal of Internal Medicine. This was stated on a psychologist site, but this was from 2020. So 2020, we all know what happened then, but it said up to 82% of people face feelings of imposter phenomenon, struggling with the sense they haven't earned what they've achieved or they are fraud. And I don't know if you've ever felt like that, but I can tell you when I was in corporate and going through, it was that feeling of I wouldn't accept the awards. I wouldn't accept what it is. I felt like I had to keep continuing to achieve I was that imposter. I resonate so deeply with those findings that 82% of people face this. And I think that even with social media, it is becoming more and more and more, and those feelings are creeping up. Now, Forbes goes on to say that 98% of professional women experience at least one of the 7 most damaging power gaps that prevent individuals from reaching their highest and most thrilling potential. And one of the most challenging power gaps, their first one, is not recognizing your special talents, abilities, or gifts. And that's where I feel like that imposter syndrome, that imposter feeling, that imposter phenomenon is like, you don't even, I think we can look at this in a few different ways. Is one, you are talking about something that you don't have the experience in. So it's not really an imposter syndrome. You are an imposter, right? And you're scared about being found out. Then also is like not recognizing or acknowledging what you have freaking done in your past. I can tell you so many women. It's like when it's like the thing that we do, and men do it in their own way. Okay. So I'm going to speak, I'm a woman, so I'm going to speak to being a woman is we'll like, oh my gosh, you did so great. Look at this. Oh, it's no big deal. Oh, I was lucky. Oh, right place, right time. Like you were not acknowledging, no, you actually did the freaking work. You did the hard thing. You went out there and I know that you were scared, but you accomplished, you win, you did it and owning it. And I mean, this one, I think just societal, we downplay the things that we've done because we're worried about making others feel bad. I think that is one thing that for sure happens. I think we also don't want to be too conceited or arrogant. I think there's a lot of things that can come into this that are creating these feelings of imposter syndrome, but it's something that we can't overlook. And I'm going to go on here. And just kind of define imposter syndrome even more. I think it's important that we talk about it, we wrap our head around it as we learn to go through it, because these feelings will come up. And if they haven't come up for you, I would challenge you on that, because I bet you they have. You're just not acknowledging it. And it doesn't make you good or bad. You know, I hate freaking labels. Having these feelings doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you powerful. It doesn't make you anything. It's just what is. And so in this study from the from the Forbes article, they define imposter syndrome as the inability to believe your success is deserved as a result of your hard work and the fact that you possessed distinct skills, capabilities, and experiences. Rather, your inclination is internalized that you got where you are by other means, such as luck, being in the right place at the right time. Woo! That is like it to a T, and the Harvard Business Review, again, like I did some research on this, you guys, because I kind of want to know more about it, because I felt it and I've definitely lived it in a real position. And then also just these feelings as we're growing and evolving, they kind of come up and then they go away. I think in your 30s, the imposter syndrome is significant. I think in your 40s, you kind of like have gone through some stuff that you've moved past imposter syndrome where it's kind of at its height. But there's three critical attributes to the phenomenon is that, thinking that people have an exaggerated view of your abilities, right? So like not owning your abilities and that people think that you are better than you are, the fear of being exposed as a fraud, the continuous tendency to downplay your achievements, right? We talked about this, like, no, oh, thanks, it just worked out. Or, oh, I launched my business in the tech bubble. Or, oh, I took advantage of everyone being home during COVID. Like you're not acknowledging that, no, you actually did the work. And a lot of times imposter syndrome shows up when we decide to take on new roles, new responsibilities. It's that feeling of self-doubt and anxiety and guilt. And those who experience this imposter syndrome, at the end of it, you may end up sabotaging your own success, obsessing over minor mistakes. Anyone else suffer from perfectionism because you're worried about putting something out there because someone might call you out or think it's not good enough or say you're not good enough? Maybe it's working twice as hard to prove yourself as a result of that feeling of imposter syndrome. So like all of this, that imposter syndrome, it for sure comes out. And again, it doesn't make you or me or anyone else bad or good. But I love Alex's statement. When that feeling is coming up, is state the facts, tell the truth. That is it. When we don't state the facts and tell the truth, that's where that imposter syndrome comes up. That's where those feelings are directly linked to anxiety and depression. That's where burnout happens because you keep going harder. You're working twice as hard to prove yourself. You're obsessing over tiny little things because you're worried about being found out. And what also is tied to that is that you can create this like isolation because you don't want to be called out. You don't want to be found out. You minimize face-to-face exposure. You're not going to the networking meeting because you don't want to see people, right? What if they call you out? You kind of go into that what if cycle. And so you just stay away. And so all of this is so important to talk about because as we're growing, as we're taking on more action, as we're doing more in our careers or our business or leading a family, whatever it is that imposter syndrome can come up, but there can be some detrimental detrimental activities that can happen to you if you don't own it. And so I wanted to give you just some things that you can do. These are things that I have done in my life and my career, going from, finance to pharmaceuticals to coaching to mentoring to owning a restaurant to media to construction, right? Every which way I had imposter syndrome come up, right? It typically comes up when you're doing something new or you're going to a new level or you're expanding your space that you typically talk on. That's where it's going to come up. And so I have done so much new that I have felt that so much. And so that's why I say, again, like being in my 40s now, I've been here. I know this feeling and I know how to work through it. So let me share with you a few of the things that I have done to be able to move through imposter syndrome and keep it so simple, like Alex states it, is number one, I think acknowledging that you don't know everything. When you're on social media and you're scrolling and someone is like talking about 5 million different things that they are experts on, and they're like, I'm the best. No, you're not. You don't know everything. And when you're feeling that imposter syndrome, it's maybe because you're speaking on something that you don't know about. Maybe you're learning about it. Stay back on what you do know. Stay focused on what you do know. It is okay. You do not need to know everything. Hell, if you knew everything, life would be really freaking boring. This is what's exciting, is that when you want to expand and you have that feeling of imposter syndrome, now is your time to dive in and learn something new. And that brings me to the second one, is like staying in your lane of experience. If you have experienced something, no one else can take that away from you. Okay. So for example, I'm blind in one eye. I can tell you how it is to live day to day blind in one eye. That is a fact. No one can take that away from me. So if I want to talk about being blind in one eye, I will feel zero imposter syndrome because I experienced it. So staying in your lane of experience. If you want to expand out, now is your time to learn. Now is your time to grow, learn, teach yourself something new. Gain the experience that you desire to speak on something so you do not feel that imposter syndrome because you have the experience. Now, the third one I want to talk about is owning your experience, right? I just shared I'm blind in one eye. You know what else I did? I had to shut down a franchised restaurants because the franchisor committed fraud and misrepresentation. Do I hold experience on franchising? Abso-freaking-lutely. Was it successful? Nope. Did I lose a ton of money? Yes. It's still experience. I could speak on that all day long because I have that experience. So I own it, regardless of whether it turned out as ideally as I wanted or not. It's still my experience and I can speak on that. Now, one thing that I have done in my past, I speak on this a lot, is going back when you are wanting to become an expert in a certain field or you want to speak on certain topics, is go back through your professional career, go back through your experiences, create almost like a T-chart. What was the experience? What can you speak on? Right? Even in that experience, right? I was a franchisee. I wasn't the franchisor. So I'm not going to speak on being the franchise owner, the overall franchisor owner. I'm going to speak on being a franchisee. I can talk about that. I can talk to other franchisees on questions they should ask, red flags they should look for when buying into a franchise. I can speak on that. So I'm owning it. And being able to go down, that will help you gain clarity on the things that you want to talk about, speak about, teach about, be a leader in that specific industry. So owning your experience. Number 4, and this is a fun one. Those of you that have ever hired, whether it's in a corporate setting or for your own business, one of my favorite tools I love to use is the STAR approach. If you haven't, I highly recommend researching this, but the STAR approach, when you're sharing something, STAR, situation, task, action, result, right? So when you're interviewing a lot of people and you're asking them for experience and they'll talk around the bush and all this different stuff, they're basically, if they can't be very specific, I know they're being an imposter right now. I know that they have those imposter feelings because the experience I'm asking about, they don't have. And so they're trying to dance around it. So I'll ask them, hey, I would love for you to answer that in the STAR approach. State the situation. What was the task that you did? What action did you take? And what was the result? Regardless of whether the result was what you wanted or not, just what was the result. When you clarify it down and make it so black and white, it is hard. It is hard to, stay in that feeling of imposter because this is the experience that you had in the STAR approach. I love that one. You can use it when take that when you're interviewing somebody, or you can take that for yourself when you are wanting to own your experience. All right, here's 2 more for you. I got 2 more, okay? The next one might be unpopular, but it's to unfollow certain people on social media. So, this one, it's interesting because everyone's like, oh, we got to like everybody and we got to do this and we got to do that. But if you're following these people on social media that don't have the experience or they aren't building you up either. They aren't making you feel good about the experience that you have and possess. Like it's almost having an indirect negative feeling on you. Unfollow them, mute them, do whatever it is. Get off that social media. That social media, that can bring out so many feelings of being an imposter. I'm not good enough. I didn't do it like that girl or that man, or I didn't do it as fast as that person. Like I'm a loser. Like those feelings can come up. You have the power to unfollow or mute them. I did this kind of in 2 big ways. One, when I closed the restaurant, then when we shut down the media company, I got off one social completely. Like I did some major house cleaning because I have to protect me and I wanted to feel good. And so it was important for me to get really clear and focused on who I wanted to follow, who I wanted to interact with as well. And then the last one is just like Alex said, right? It kind of ties into the STAR approach. State the facts, tell the truth. This is what I did, and this is what I happened. Good or bad, doesn't matter. You have the experience, and no one can deny that. And if you won the award, if you built the company, if you got the new position in your organization, and people are always going to look at you and think like, oh, she or he got that because of, they're in good with, this other executive and that's how they got the position. Screw that. You know what I mean? State the facts, tell the truth. This is what you did. You earned that position. Own it. You took the action to get there. Own it. Stay with it. You are not a fraud. If you state the facts and tell the truth, you are not a fraud. So for me, I just gave a bunch of experience because I've felt this at various periods in my life. I climbed that corporate ladder. Are you kidding me? I came out, I did things. Things worked out. Things did not. I went into new industries. For me right now, I'm telling you, running an 8-figure business is something I do not know how to do. I'm acknowledging I don't know how to do this. I'm learning right now. I'm aligning with people that I know will help support me. I am aligning with information that I know that I can use towards the business. So for now, I'm learning. I don't have that experience. But I can tell you, a few years from now, I'm going to state the facts and I'm going to tell the truth. And I will always continue to speak on what I know and own it. The more you do that, the more that feeling of imposter syndrome or imposter phenomenon, that will disappear. And you will stay focused on you and what you can achieve. I hope this helped you. Being in that feeling of imposter syndrome, feeling like someone is going to find out, this is a great one to come back to. State the facts, tell the truth, and you can never go wrong.